Hey, what's up everybody? Today we're going to finish this piece, and first thing is you always must tuck in your pig bowl. Make sure she is nice and warm and cozy. First thing I want to do is shape out one of the leaves that I had carved up. Since it is carved, you want to use kind of a softer flame. You don't want to melt out all the carving that you just did. And then I'm just giving it a little shape, just a little swoop. And there, just kind of cleaning up the end. And I'm gonna add some little nubs on here where they're gonna be welded onto the can there. So I'm gonna take my mini torch and just kind of polish out the carvings so that I can place my nubs there, so that there's a nice clean weld and not any weird little pockets or folds or anything like that. So there, that's what I'm talking about, just kind of removing some of the carvings so that I have a nice flat surface to put a marble on. That will be my attachment point. Figuring out the right amount of glass for these nubs is a big part of it. If you don't want them too small, but you don't want them too big either. You don't want them hanging off of your piece. I prefer things to be nice and tight. Try to get my attachments nice and close together so the piece is more compact. So there, just kind of polishing the spot where I'm going to attach my nub. There, just using my mini torch to kind of shape that clear nub, melt it in, get it all nice and juicy. And got those both looking ready to go. And so I'm gonna put one of those on there. And it's pretty much, you want that clear nub to be really hot, molten, and you want your piece to be hot. It doesn't need to be as hot as your attachment, but the hotter it is, the more of that weld is done instantly. But you do want to brace them up, make sure that the weld is super good, because that will be a major weak spot if not. So there, I'm just bracing up to the same little piece of 8mm hanging off my handle there. And that allows me to just really confidently get that leaf welded on super good. And there you can see, of course, when bracing something up, you kind of play the game of going back and forth, putting a little heat into the attachment, and then go back to the brace, get that all good, and then go back to your attachment, just to keep everything happy. This is another time where you really start to love your mini torch. It allows you to just get in places that and hit angles that you really can't do without it. Yeah, just using my Bunsen just to make sure everything's happy, and kind of lining up my next one, figuring out where it needs to go. I am going to put these on there symmetrically. I could talk for an hour on symmetrical attachments, but on here I just kind of went for it. You can mark where your attachments are going to go. You can do different things to really guarantee that your attachment will be placed where you want it to go. But on here, it was relatively simple, and so I just kind of went for it there. And there, I got it on there, getting them lined up and symmetrical as possible, and bracing up, making sure that brace weld is good, put a little heat into the leaf. And here, same thing. You just work that weld till it's nice and smooth. And here I'm just removing the braces, getting everything cleaned up. And I'm gonna heat up one of the leaves and just tweak it a little bit, right? Boom, we're right there. Back in the kiln. Next up, I want to put that Raticello marble that I made earlier on here. So I'm going to take some peacock, just some peacock rod, and just gather up a little ball and use that as kind of like a squished on backing for that marble. So I'm just getting that cleaned up first, making sure it's nice and round. So I'm just getting that cleaned up, making sure it's nice and round. And then I want to take a rod of peacock and I just kind of squish a ball onto the end, right there, boom. And work that on there, weld that on, and then I'll melt off a little chunk and just kind of squish it into a little platform, and that's basically the connection point there. And I left one piece of 6mm hanging off the tip of one of those leaves. I left that there so I can brace my marble to it. Before I put the marble on, I'm going in with, I don't know, some 3mm I think, and just putting little permanent braces kind of on the insides of the leaves, just connecting them, bracing them up to the donut section. It's always nice to put those in there, make your piece as strong as possible. Just feels better in the hand too, with nothing vibrating around, so, you know, if it gets set down too hard. And now that those are permanently braced up, you can go in and hit your weld again if you need to, or do whatever you got to do to polish things up and make those welds as clean as possible. Back in the Bunsen, making sure everything's happy. Marble time. So this is pretty simple. I'm just gonna get that little peacock section that I put on there super hot. Get the piece nice and hot, where it's gonna go, and then it's just, you know, kind of a timing thing. Pull out and attach, and when attaching a marble like that, I usually push it in a little bit while it's super hot and then give it a little pull out, and it'll kind of just shape it out nicely, and it makes sure that your weld doesn't have any acute angles or weird spots. There, it's just braced up to that leaf tip, and that just gives me the confidence to really get the weld super good, make sure it's all flowy and happy in there. Here, just cleaning up that tip there, removing that brace. And then just cleaning up the punny mark off of my marble. I got some scuzz on the inside of my beaker somehow that got cooked in. It's still kind of a mystery to me what it is, but yeah, you'll see it in some shots. No bueno. And so next I want to put a few opal marbles on here just to fill in some more space. So I have some white 6mm spheres. So to encase those, I just get a piece of 11mm. I think that's like some standard wall. And get a nice clean opal. Those are nice and clean. I never touched them out of the bag. If you do touch them, make sure you wipe them off with some Windex or something. But then I just place it in the tube, slowly heat up until it sticks, and then it's just working the heat back, kind of staying ahead of the opal, and the tube will collapse around it. And here I'm just pulling it down, removing the excess clear, and I caught a little air bubble on this one, so you just heat up that bubble, and it's a pull off, but it's also kind of a swipe. I've noticed if you kind of swipe the surface of the opal, not hard or anything, but just a little bit, instead of pulling the bubble out, I'm almost swiping it off. I have a little better luck with that. And here I'm just getting it to the right size that I want it. You do want, I don't know, a couple mil of clear over the top of an opal. They seem to be a little bit happier. So here I'm just doing another one, same size, 6mm opal, round sphere. And right there is a little kiss, a little suck, to where it's right when the tube is about to close. You get a good amount of heat right ahead of that little close, right ahead of where the glass is about to touch, and you suck in. And if you time it right, you can totally condense that glass down around it without catching a bubble. Doesn't happen every time, but if you catch a little bubble, they're fairly simple to remove. And so here I have a larger opal. This is an 8mm white sphere. And it's the same thing. I'm just using a piece of 16mm tubing. And you want to get it a nice round bottom, a nice even thickness round bottom for that opal to kind of sit in at first. And then you can just start working your heat back and over the top of it. Then you just start working your heat back, and then boom, there's that little suck right there. You can see it condense down, and that one worked out really well. No air, so there's no need to mess with it. It's ready to go. Just want to remove a little bit of that excess clear, make it a little bit smaller of a marble. I really like the spheres, not only because of how they look, but they do encase pretty easily. And so here I'm going to attach the first one up on the neck, so it's just getting the opal nice and hot, getting my neck hot, ready to go. Boom, make the connection, and then just melt that off and work it in, shape it with my mini torch however I want. little puff there just to make sure it's didn't sink in on me at all. And then I'm just gonna place the other one right on the other side. Same spot, other side of the mouthpiece, and then just melt that in the same way. Using my mini torch and using gravity to just smooth out any weirdness or any acute angles in the weld and get it all nice and here just tossing her back in the Bunsen, giving it a little love, making sure it's ready. So here I'm going to attach the 8mm opal a little further down on the beaker. So I just got that nice and juicy hot, attached it on there. And this marble doesn't really need to be braced since I'm just kind of melting the whole thing in. I'm not trying to keep it up on that post or anything. It's just going to be melted in, so there's no need to brace it. And I'm always a little sketched out welding things down next to the bottom, next to the base, like that close to the base. Those kind of love to crack sometimes. So you could see I was almost welding it on in the Bunsen just to be extra sure, especially because it's, you know, last step of the piece. Might as well be safe. And so that's pretty much it there. You do want to make sure that your male plug is out of your female. You don't want that in there when you mouthpiece. And here I'm just holding it with some tongs and removing my handle, and then just removing that excess clear. And you'll see once I get it down pretty thin, I'll grab, there you go, a piece of 16, and I'll use that to remove basically all the rest, because then it's just a quick pop. But using that 16mm works good. It's grabbing the glass from a bigger area. It just helps to get those nice and cleaned up. And then it's just a little ream, and, you know, kind of working it back and forth in the flame, melting all the rest of that in. You can kind of shape it with a paddle. As you can see I'm doing there, hitting it on the top, on the side, making sure I'm looking at it from all angles. That is about it. Looking good, looking done. Toss her in the kiln. That's that. There's our little mini tube. And that is about it. Stay tuned for next time. We'll give you a closer look at what this thing looks like. Thanks a lot.